12 volt variable flow, variable pressure pumps. A variable flow, variable pressure pump is a pump where the flow may be indicated at 6.8 and the pressure may be indicated at 107. Now don't get confused that they'll do both these figures at the same time. To get a 6.8 litre pump to do 6.8 litres, you've basically got no pressure. And when you want the 107 psi, you have very little flow. So the objective is to try and get your required numbers, being the flow and pressure, in the middle of that range that they operate at, and that will make it the most efficient. Now within those machines we have two models in our 12 volts. We have up to 11 litre pumps with a pressure switch, and then we have the 20 litre pump with a bypass. Now the first one I'm going to cover is the little 3.8 litre pump as fitted to the Spotmate. So the 3.8 litres per minute and maximum pressure of 40 psi. Now to put that in a better context, the flow at 30 psi, which is a 2 bar, which is pretty much a boom flow, that's sufficient to operate 3 to 4 litres per minute. So the output at that is 2 litres per minute. Now that's suitable for a Goldacres mini boom. The electric draw on that is about 4 amps, 4 to 5 amps. So you can run that off a cigarette lighter / accessory plug on your car. It's great for a small gun or a lance. The next one I'll cover is the 6.8 litre per minute, a maximum pressure of 107 psi. So if we bring that back to operating flow and pressure, that particular pump will do about 5 litres per minute at 3 bar. Now that's suitable for use up to a 3 metre boom or 6 nozzles. Roughly, if we're using yellow 2 lilac nozzles, they're going to put out about nearly 1 litre per minute, so it's nice and easy to work out. The power draw on this particular pump is anywhere from 5 to 9 amps. So in most cases you'll find it's not satisfactory to run off a cigarette / accessory plug unless it's a 10 amp version. Now some of the utilities that are coming out you will find will have a 10 amp plug in them, or some of them even have a 10 amp cigarette / accessory plug in the tray if it's a tub model. Now this particular pump is great for use with a gun because it's of its higher pressure, it's 107 psi, but as I say before, it's good up to a 3 metre or 6 nozzle boom. This particular unit is fitted with a pressure switch, so when it reaches its maximum pressure, the pump cuts out. As soon as it drops below it, it cuts back in. The next pump I'm going to review is the 11.3 litre 43 psi pump. This pump's best application is to operate a boom as its primary function, but it can operate a gun, but the pressure is down a little. Now this particular pump at 2 bar, 30 psi, it'll flow 8.5 litres per minute. So that's suitable for a boom up to about 4 metres, and it'll operate a gun, as I say, of medium pressure. If you're going to be operating a gun and a boom, I would suggest you jump up to a 20 litre per minute pump. Now the pump draw on this particular 11.8 litre per minute pump is 7 to 10 amps. Again, as in the 6.8, it can't run off a standard accessory / cigarette lighter plug. It needs to be a designated 10 amp plug as fitted to some commercial vehicles. One of the things that I'm going to cover is these 3 models we've talked about with pressure switches is a phenomenon called bouncing. Now what bouncing is where the pump is constantly turning on and off, and the cause of this is the pump is too large for the application or the nozzles are too small. Now as a customer services person, I constantly see the want of a higher litre pump to get more pressure. In 12 volt pumps, this is certainly not the best way to go. So if you're going to operate a gun and you want to operate it through a 30-meter hose reel, I'm suggesting you use the 6.8 107. If you want to operate it more with a boom than a gun, go up to the 11.8. Now the problem with bouncing is every time you turn an electric motor on and off, it will use about 2 to 3 times the amps to start that motor. So if you have a 12 volt motor on a pump that normally will draw 7 amps, we'll say for example, when you start that, it's going to jump up to about 20 amps. Now when that jumps up to 20 amps, even though it's a very short time it does it, it generates 3 times the heat. So if you are working in a fairly high ambient temperature and it's constantly turning on and off, what you're going to end up with is the failure of the pump, or the heat strip inside is going to stop the pump going till it cools back down. So it is quite imperative that you match your pump size to the requirements being a gun or a boom. If you're not sure of how to match these up, our dealer support team is available. Now the other option you can run with any of these is to stop that heat build up, is to put a pressure relief valve in there or a flow control valve. This can be as simple as a T-jet style pressure or flow control valve, or just a very simple tap that will just allow enough back to the tank to keep that pump operating. I'll stress, if you're not sure, please contact the Goldacres dealer support team. Now the next pump I'm going to talk about is the 20 litre 95 psi pump. Now this is a new generation pump, and in my opinion this is the biggest advancement in 12 volt pumps in a long time. So instead of having a pressure switch on the one we sell, it has a bypass in it. So this particular pump is a bypass demand pump. So no pressure switch, and it internally bypasses. So this flow can be adjusted if required, but that's again, talk to your dealer support. The advantage of this is that the electric motor is not turned on and off as I've previously said, so it doesn't heat up, and the bimetallic strip doesn't cut the engine out, and it'll constantly cool. Now the other thing with any 12 volt pumps, if you're turning them on and off, if they have a cooling fan in them, the cooling fan isn't cooling when they're not operating. And as I say, in my eyes, this is a big leap forward in 12 volt pumps. Now the 20 litre per minute 95 psi pump, to give you an idea, it'll do at 2 bars, it'll still do 15 litres per minute, or at 3 bar, 45 psi, only drops down to 14. Now this will operate a boom up to 6 meters easily. The power draw is 10 to 20 amps, so it needs directly connected to the battery or a heavy duty cable to the tray or the trailer, and I would suggest something like a 50 amp Anderson to plug the two together. This will also operate a 30 meter hose reel with ease, and we have used this particular pump up to a 100 meter pro reel, and it has a small loss of performance but not a large amount. So that's your 12 volt pumps. I can only stress, if you want them to last longer, give them a good clean out when you've used them, and if you have any concerns, please ring the Goldacres dealer support team and they will help you through it. Now I'm going to start on the U-door pumps. Now the U-door pump is what we call a constant flow, constant pressure pump. Now the U-door pump is made in Europe. Now they are constant flow, constant pressure pumps. Now the pumps that we use will break down into what we'll say 2 classes. We have the medium and the high pressure pumps. The medium pump is more suited to running a boom, and we carry those from 20 litres per minute to 260 litres per minute, and they have an maximum operating pressure of 290 psi. Then we have the high pressure pump, which Goldacres mainly use, the 40 litre per minute pump for the pro reel on that. So it's mainly designed for gun work because you need the extra pressure, but it'll adequately do boom work. As the medium pressure one, it'll adequately do gun work also, but not to the higher pressures. The subgroup of these is broken down, and that is in the way they're powered. So the UDOR pumps that we have are broken down into 3 subgroups, which are the PTO drive, so it's using the power take-off drive off the tractor. The second one is a engine 6-to-1 box, and the third drive is a hydraulic drive. The selection of pumps can be connected to an engine from a 20 litre per minute to about 100 litre per minute pump with an integrated drive, 6-to-1 drive. Now what I mean by an integrated drive is the 6-to-1 reduction box bolts directly onto the motor, and then it is an integral part of the pump. So it makes it a complete combined unit. The advantage of that is you don't have any rattling couplings to cause maintenance problems or make a lot of noise or vibrate. Now, normally you would find that your engine, stationary engine, will run around that 3000 RPM, but PTO speed that a pump runs at is only 540 RPM. So we have to run a 6-to-1 reduction to achieve those revs. Within that group, there's also another group where you may have to, if you want to, on a truck sprayer or something like that, you may require a higher flow of 130, 170 or even 260 litres per minute. What I suggest there is the purchase of a Honda with a built-in 6-to-1 reduction box, and then use a flexible coupler between the two on a sub frame that you can bolt the pump and the motor to. Hydraulic drive. Well, there's 2 options in hydraulic drive. There's the MI drive, which is an integral drive that allows the hydraulic motor shaft to fit inside the crankshaft of the pump, and there's just a keyway there, and this is available on 170 and 260 litre per minute pumps. Now the second option is a PTO hydraulic drive kit. Now this fits over the existing PTO drive on the pump, and the hydraulic motor is on a little bell housing and the slide coupler is inside there. This is great for the application if you maybe want to be able to use a hydraulic drive on some applications or some tractors and PTO on the other. You can do that. Or if you buy a second-hand machine and it has an existing PTO drive and you want to change that to hydraulic, you can buy these couplings. So these are available from the 85 litre per minute pump right up to the 260. You can also get options on those for RPM readouts and everything to go back to your Raven. Now Goldacres also stock a range of Hypro centrifugal pumps. Now the Hypro pump is a variable flow, variable pressure pump, very similar to the 12 volt. So the higher pressure you have, the lower flow it is. They have, in my eyes, a few drawbacks. You can't run them dry, and as I've mentioned before, they have very little flow when you're getting up in the pressure. Now in the technology of new nozzles, where we're using AI nozzles, air inducted nozzles, we are using higher pressures, and those higher pressures will impact on the flow that you can get out of your pump. Now I'll give you an example. Is a pump that will do 270 litres per minute at low pressure, and then if you bring that up to 4 bar, that 270 will drop down to around 150. So you can see there's a significant jump. There's a more significant jump if you jump from 4 to 5 bar, where it jumps from 150, will drops from 150 down to 100, and then if you go into 6 bar, it's down to 50. So as I indicated, AI nozzles do require a bit more pressure, so in some cases you will be dropping. Now the other thing that must be remembered in using any pump is getting adequate flow back to the tank for agitation. And a good rule of thumb, I say good rule of thumb, is about 3% of the tank volume returning back to the tank for agitation. Now if we do some simple maths here on a 24 metre boom with 025 nozzles and a 4,000 litre tank, we're going to have 48 nozzles, and those 48 nozzles are going to require about 50, maybe a bit above, litres per minute. And then the tank for agitation require another 100 litres, roughly, and then losses, which can be up to 15% of flow, we'll say 22. You're going to have to run 170 litre per minute pump, and in this case the pressure would be just under 4 bar. So it's not that you're running a 270 litre pump, you're actually going to need a 170 litre pump to be able to handle it at 4 bar. So the example I used up top, where it's a 270 litre per minute pump, would not handle doing the particular job adequately. So as I've stressed all the way through this particular presentation, is if you're unsure, you're dealing with high dollar value items, contact the Goldacres dealer support team, have a chat to them, and they can put you on the right road.